Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of War Thunder. Today we're actually looking at the new patch 1.47, or Big Guns as they've called it. Now I haven't had a chance to actually test it. I've been quite busy for the last few days and I'm going to be busy for the next few days. And I've also gone over a lot of the changes from the dev server, from when they were added into the dev server, sorry. So I'm not going to go into massive in-depth discussion of it today. But I will try and go over some of the areas that maybe weren't covered in the dev server. First change you'll probably notice is no 2 times bonus, which has been replaced by the new boosters. We talked about them before, but as you can see here, one I've got gives 30% bonus to Silver Lions for 5 matches. You can buy these in the item shops for Golden Eagles. Seem a bit expensive if I'm honest, but some of them, but you know, I don't think these are going to make up for the 2 times bonus. You do get bigger bonuses as you log in daily, but so maybe it'll get better over time, but I think there will be a lot of people annoyed about the 2 times bonuses disappearing. Now I'm not going to go into massive detail about the new aircraft, but what's been added is the American A20G25, well, it's actually a reskin rather than a new edition. And also the B29 and the B57B. Now the reason I'm not actually going into in-depth discussion is because I've covered these before in the dev server. So I'm not going to cover the same information twice or 3 times even, because otherwise that would just be a pointless duplication. But basically the B29 carries a lot of bombs and is pretty fast, 400 miles per hour, only 30-40 slower than the F7F, which is around the same tier and rank. B57B it carries 8 machine guns and it has a tiny bit of armour around the cockpit, which the B57A doesn't, but seems to be the same speed. The A20G25, there might be some minor speed differences, but really the only difference I've noticed is, if I show you really quickly, they've got a flatter and lower down turret, which the A20G30 I think we had before was higher up and less rounded. And the new tanks the Americans have got is one's a self-propelled anti-aircraft gun, the M42, and the M26E1, which is an M26 with a better gun, longer reload, but can penetrate like 50mm more armour at 100 metres, or about 40. You know, a lot more armour. There's also been some minor modification changes. P51D5 can carry different bombs, 500-pound bombs, two 250-pound bombs, 100-pound bombs. The F82E can now carry, if we can find it, a gun pod with 8 machine guns. 8 machine guns with a lot of ammo in them. The F8F1 has also got an extra 200 bullets or so in its machine guns. It had 1,050 before, it's now 1,250. So that's going to make it even more potent against enemy vehicles. And the B17E and EL now get 7.62mm machine guns in the front instead of 50 calibers, I believe around here. So they're going to be a lot less potent against enemy fighters. The G's unaffected because it has a purpose-built turret which was designed to have 50 caliber machine guns. The Germans have new engines for the Horten 229 V3, I believe. Basically, this is going to make it a lot faster. So that's good for the Germans. They've also got the G14, which is I think a slightly better version than the G6. So again, that's going to be quite good for the Germans as well. You know, good to have another fighter. Although I'll probably wait to get it myself because it's folded and it won't contribute to any of these aircraft, which is what I want to get. And of course I nearly forgot about the Focke-Wulf 200C1, Germany's first 4-engine aircraft. Oh, I've actually accidentally pressed the wrong button. Carries a pretty bad amount of armour. It has a bad amount of armour. It doesn't have particularly good secondary armament. Carries quite, a decent amount of bombs, but again, compared to some other bombers, it might be a little low. But again, it's good for tier 2. It's okay, it's good for Germany to get a 4-engine bomber finally. Even if it's not exactly as good as some of the other 4-engine bombers. Of course, there was also other changes. The Stuka Gs have been moved to tier 2, and the D5s have got access to machine gun pods, which give 12 machine guns, or cannon pods, which give an extra 4. There's also been weapon changes for the Ju-88A4, which can now carry 1,000 kilogram bomb and a 500 kilogram bomb. And changes to the 50 kilogram bombs for it, and the Dorniers go to the K1. It's been moved from, I think it was 26 kilogram bombs to 26 50 kilogram bombs to 28, so bit of an improvement there. So Germany's done quite well out of this patch. They've also got new tanks, the Marder 3H, which it's got slightly better armour, but the gun seems a bit, I don't know, it's better for like mid-range engagements, but longer and shorter range engagements, I believe it suffers somewhat, weirdly. Usually it gets better and better. It's not usually you get some like slightly worse in some areas, but yeah, I've covered it before, so like in one of my other episodes, but yeah, basically, so that's why I'm not going too in depth about explaining it all. I've also got the Gepard, faster than the Flak Panzer 1. It has the same gun and same amount of crew, but slightly better armour, although it is also a higher tier, so it's not going to, it's going to be cancelled out straight away. Also got the Tiger E. Quickly show you the roof armour. It's mostly the same, but it's got, I think, a armour around the turret ring, which you can't actually see, unfortunately, and better roof armour, 40mm. So hopefully that will help against artillery and air attack. If we go back, we've also got the mouse. Got to show you the mouse. If it will load up. We've seen it before. Ridiculously thick armour. Decent gun. 2 decent guns. One does 100mm damage. The other one does at 100 meters 250. So that's going to be quite insane. Even the roof armour's like 60mm. Unfortunately, we don't get access to that grenade launcher type thing there. I believe there's also been machine guns added for the F2 and all of the Panzer IIIs, so that's good. It's going to help, with dealing against enemy aircraft. Move on to the Russians quick. They've got the R2 1941, which is got better manoeuvrability than the previous R2s, or the future R2s, sorry. And I think it's got the best armour, well, not the best like actual thickness, but like the most accurate they've done with their armour, out of any other aircraft, I believe. And also I think one of their graphically most intense, or most advanced graphics aircraft. I'm not sure what the exact word is. Most detailed aircraft, that's probably the word I was looking for. But unfortunately it has Shafak cannons rather than the 23mm cannons, so it might suffer a little bit against enemy aircraft. I've also got the LA5FN, which is a reskin, or it's a slightly different variant. It has a different engine, I believe, which should make it about the same or superior to the BF-109Gs, from what I understand. The I-16s have also had some minor changes. For wing-mounted machine guns, they now have 900 bullets per gun. You can see with the top one, 1,800 for 2 machine guns, so presumably they're 2 wing-mounted ones. Presumably, I don't know if this is an increase or a decrease in ammo. Could be increasing, efficient. How lethal it is to other enemy fighters might be worse. I'm not entirely sure. Sorry if I'm rushing through this a little bit, but like I say, I've covered all of this a few times before, so I don't want to cover all of it in depth again, because it would be a bit pointless. After that, in the Russian ground forces, we have the T-28E, which is it's a T-28 like the normal one, but it has additional armour on it. You can see around there that ring. I'm having a bit of trouble selecting it. There we go. Oh, we saw it for a few seconds. Yeah, there we go. And I believe it has additional armour at the front as well. It says 30 there, and I think there's a bit behind it. Yeah, a bit behind it. It's just got lots of armour strapped onto it. It's got a higher battle rating, 2.7 compared to the normal T-28's 2.3. What else did it get? They got the T-54 1949, which seems to be quite similar to the 51-47. Same gun, roughly same armour, speed. Not sure what other changes it really has. And there's a new premium, the 126, which I think is going to be a troll tank. Basically, it's a light tank with a 45mm cannon, but with like nearly 80mm thick armour, because of all that sloping. So yeah, that's a bit insane. And it's only barrel rating 2.7, so yeah. There's also been new ammunition for the IS-3s and IS-4. The BR-47-1D, 227mm penetration at 100 metres, which will help deal with the mouse presumably, while the T-54s get 412P, 250mm penetration at 100 metres, which should be able to deal with the mouse quite easily. Feel sorry for the Germans. They finally get a good tank and then it's just ruined by new ammunition that's going to make sure it's completely and utterly destroyed. Moving on to Britain, they didn't get any tanks obviously, but they didn't get any aircraft either, or graphical revamping, that's the word. But they did get some additional weapon loadouts. The Tempest Mark V and Mark II can now carry 2 1,000-pound bombs, while the Mark 1BL and the Typhoon Mark 1B can carry 8 RP3 rockets. That can carry 2 1,000-pound bombs, and the Tempest Mark V and Mark II can carry the rockets. Sorry, got that a bit mixed up. Sorry about that. Yeah, you can see there, weird description. That doesn't kind of look right. Japan only got one new aircraft, the J2M4K. Pretty fast, doesn't have particularly any armour. 4 20mm cannons, so that's quite good. Quite expensive, 3,850 Golden Eagles, but nice little plane. 430, which is 26 miles per hour faster than the J2M3. Other than that, the J2M3 actually got some weaponry doings. It used to have 4 Mark II cannons, it now has 2 Mark II and 2 Mark I. And the G8N1 has lost its 12mm machine guns and got 13mm machine guns, which I now have to rebuy, unfortunately. Now, that's most of the major content additions. There have also been other changes. You can open the canopies for certain aircraft now. I'm not going to list all of them because there's a big list. I'll link you to the patch 1.47 patch list, which tells you all of them. I can't actually see mention of turning the lights on in aircraft. I assume it is, you can actually do that, but maybe they've had to hold it back for a bit. There's been some other minor changes, like the Tiger II now has 2 loaders. Changes to the M103's armour, but it doesn't say what the changes are, and I don't know what it was originally, so I can't really say what's changed. And detail levels for armour of various tanks, like the KV-1s, Panzer IVs, that sort of stuff. But again, it doesn't say what these changes are particularly. I assume it makes it more accurate. One major change is the chance of ammunition or fuel tank explosion now depends on what type of damage it received. So, armour piercing, high explosive, armour piercing, high explosive. It says here, to maximise chances of an explosion from ammo or fuel rack tanks, armour piercing high explosive shells would be particularly useful. So, changes to, tank combat. Also a bunch of decals are being added. Now, one of the major changes in this patch is to do with bombs in Ground Forces Arcade. Basically, at the moment, or before patch 1.47, you drop your bomb, it exploded as soon as it hit the ground. So people were kamikazing, getting to like 10 metres on the ground, dropping the bomb, hitting the tank, getting a kill, not lose, with an aircraft they earned, so it didn't affect them. But now, it takes 10 seconds to arm. Basically, if you drop the bomb, it takes a second to hit the ground. It's now got 9 seconds before it explodes. And there's also indicators for tanks to see where that bomb is, to give them time to run. Which should helpfully stop the kamikazing and actually, encourage bombing and not just turning your planes into guided missiles. Which is a good change. And plus, with the addition of the machine guns for more tanks, obviously that's going to make it even more lethal for aircraft that are low level, and plus the bomb delay, so it's going to encourage planes to bomb from a high distance, which it makes them less effective, but will make it fairer for the guys on the ground. Other major changes, Neutral turn ability added for the Panther, Tiger 1, Tiger 2, Jagged Panther and Mouse. Other than that, it's just mainly stuff we've already covered in other episodes. It's got here the ability to switch lights on in cockpit, so it's just in a different part of the patch notes. Binocular views, driver view, driver mode. We covered the driver mode a little bit, but I still don't understand how it works. It's something to do with the tank driving full speed while you're still shooting, but you still control it. Don't quite understand it. Contrail effects, heat compression effect from firing tank cannon. Different terrain settings have been added for ground forces locations. I tried this on the test. I haven't seen these yet, so I don't know how they work. Maybe you have to turn on a certain graphics setting or something. I don't know exactly. Something about returning to the old artillery strike camera for arcade battles. Again, not sure how that's going to work. I think it's lower down, so it's not like a bird's eye view like you were getting before, which was people were exploiting to look up. Not a bird's eye view, but they were exploiting it to look over walls and cover and stuff. Shields in Def Camera all represent their type, so if you get hit by a high explosive anti-tank, presumably you'll see it as a high explosive anti-tank, which is good. Other than that, there doesn't seem to be any major changes. I do apologize. I've probably missed something. Someone's going to tell me in the comments I've missed something. Machine guns added for the T-34 1941 with the F-34 cannon, and for the Panzer IV F2. Other than that, I can't notice anything else. Yeah, so I'll probably leave the episode here. Sorry it's not as in-depth as it usually is, but I've been going to be busy for the next few days. So I can't really get a more in-depth video for a little while, so this is probably the best I'll manage for a while. But yeah, thanks for watching. Leave a like if you like the videos. Leave feedback, could always do with more feedback. Subscribe if you like these sorts of videos, and yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and hope you enjoy patch 1.47.